So I first met Dwayne Ollinger at the Mega UFO conference in Laughlin, Nevada back in February of 2019, just before COVID took over the world. If the pandemic hit a month earlier, I would have probably missed out on that friendship, or it would have at least been put on hold until our paths crossed at a future date. But it's hard for me to imagine just how big of an impact that would have had on my investigation and research into the Uinta Basin, Skinwalker Ranch, and Blind Frog Ranch. A quick disclaimer, I, James Keenan, have had nothing to do with the Discovery Channel show Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. What you see here is independent of that show. Dwayne allows me to come aboard and collect data at his property and conduct treasure hunting in the area. Ancient lost history appears to be a byproduct of both topics. Now let's head on out to Blind Frog Ranch. Past those gates are BLM, Bureau of Land Management, land that you must traverse approximately 1 mile. It requires four-wheel drive, a dirt bike, mountain bike, or your legs for hiking in. I doubt an all-wheel drive vehicle would make it. Now remember, the Spaniards came into this area in the 1500s, not 1776 like historians would have you believe, with the Dominguez Escalante expedition. And we're told by the Native American populations of mines already dug and mined, and yellow rocks known to the indigenous people, yellow rocks that the Spaniards seemed to covet. This was followed by the Mexicans. Then the Mormons arrived in the mid-1800s and were told by Chief Wakara of the Timpanogos band of the Shoshone about mines and gold that were already known, even already smelted into bullion. So, who was original mining in the area? Using the local indigenous populations as slave labor, even before the Spaniards. That leads into a different presentation I have on the ancient giants and the desert archaic Indians that later became the Aztec nation. So the terrain at Blind Frog Ranch makes it extremely difficult to use much of the equipment. The ranch is a rugged, mountainous wilderness. This is Dwayne's property. Imagine having to search for an ancient cultural site or mine in this type of terrain. Even with being able to see underground with all my geosurvey systems, it's still comparable to finding a needle in a haystack. It's not easy to get around the property with equipment in tow. Here Dwayne is shuttling us between sites in his tank. Okay, not a tank, his tracks. Difficult terrain without the proper equipment and vehicles. Sometimes it can get a bit sketchy. Some important spots are not easy to reach. Then, you often pick up interesting technology readings using certain equipment, but trace it to coming from places like this. How the hell do you access sites with natural barriers like this? It can only be done with heavy machinery, which is costly and time consuming. It takes a very long time to get heavy equipment to Blind Frog Ranch. You just saw the rugged terrain that must be traversed. This is an indigenous people's occupation site for centuries, if not thousands of years. We've pulled out artifacts as far back as the Archaic period, which is 2,000 years old or older. I believe there's a cave entrance deeper down, and that is why this spot has been occupied for thousands of years. Over the centuries, the entrance eventually was covered up. It continued to be used as a gathering site for exchange, crafting, and cooking based upon artifact finds in the amount of ash and charcoal remains. There are many bones that have been pulled out of this site. In order to conduct a proper search and excavation if needed, this area must be completely leveled of all brush and shrubs. The semi-arid desert landscape is too difficult to use with much of my technology. I'm in the process of getting Dwayne to do this to move forward with a better initial non-invasive look into the ground. And by the way, that metal detection unit I'm using with the current 20-inch round coil can detect and discriminate metals to a depth of 8 feet. Most metal detectors cannot go deeper than 12 inches. I have an additional 2x2 meter coil with a built-in magnetometer that can detect metals down to 26 feet. It's a big coil using pulse induction technology to break the limits of detecting what lies below. Here we're using the 3D ground imager at a location that prior to this had another piece of equipment coming back with the potential to have a high yield of gold below ground. Unknown if that is ore or already processed and cached gold ingot bars by unknown person or persons in the past. And honestly, this spot looks like a dry, collapsed cavity entrance on the property. We're going back to this site in October. Heavy machinery will most likely be used here as the follow-up steps. This looks unnatural and intentionally covered up. Now this is not a natural formation, it's a man-made marker. We recently received new credible information about it in June of this year. The marker may be pointing to 3 mines, known to many treasure hunters as the Hartz Mines. October of this year might yield some major finds. Again, man-made marker located on Blind Frog Ranch. It too looks to be pointing to the 3 Hartz Mines. In 2021, we retrieved a Spanish half real silver coin from this location. The date on the coin was 1810. I have been prepping a new grid search for this area that I plan on personally conducting there the second week of October, so long it does not interfere with taping of season 3 of the show about the ranch. Last but not least, this petroglyph looks to have been carved within the last several hundred years. According to the book, the De Re Metallica, which is how Europeans conducted mining operations, this symbol describes cached metals in the area. Additional research will be performed on this when I'm in Madrid, Spain next year at the Museo de Americas archives. Stay tuned for future presentations I will post on this YouTube channel. I also plan on putting up video of these expeditions and site excavations conducted throughout the world. Please remember to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like if you don't mind. Take care, everyone.